Hello, this section is entitled Cloud Pub Sub, and it's really just a quick introduction to Cloud Pub Sub that's sufficient to perform some later activities where we use it in conjunction with various compute solutions. For the purposes of at least this section here, we just recognize that Cloud Pub Sub is a mechanism where you can decouple your code from where you can actually have something called a producer of messages that generates messages, and then you have another bunch of code that subscribes to those messages and performs some actions based on it. So there's a lot to Cloud Pub Sub, and as a matter of fact, we'll come back to this later in a later video, but if you're interested in kind of getting a deeper dive into Cloud Pub Sub, there's a link here in the backing notes here, this YouTube, and it's a series of, I think there's like 9 of these videos, 10 of these videos, and it goes through pretty much all the theory of Cloud Pub Sub. But again, we'll come back to this later, but you're welcome to do that on your own if you're more interested. Separately, what we're going to do here though is we want to be able to just get some basic ideas of how it works, so that we can then turn around and implement it with our various compute solutions. So we're just going to write some code on our local machines, just using Cloud Pub Sub to just get the basic theory, right? And then we'll turn to next videos implementing it using the various compute solutions on Google. There is a quick start here. Let me close on this video here. That Google provides about just using Cloud Pub Sub with Node.js. Well, it's actually with different languages, but in this case, we're going to do the Node.js version. So this is we're essentially following this quick start just to get a flavor of sort of the main ideas of how it works. But I'll be doing it, anyway, I won't be line by line following theirs, but more or less following it. The first thing you need to know is what a topic is. So what we're going to do is I'll talk about it as we go to do the actual work. So the topic is the first, before there's a topic, I guess, there's a message. So basically just think of messages as something that a producer generates, some JSON of some sort, that then somehow gets consumed by another process, the subscriber. So the message is the unit of information that's being passed around, and the topic is the first other term. So basically, it is sort of the first entry point. So when a producer or a publisher, for that matter, generates data, it publishes it to a topic. Okay, so it's some named thing that can accept messages. So the first step is let's just create, go into our go back into our Cloud Console. We're going to use Pub Sub topics, and we're going to create a topic. So that if you look at this carefully, there's not a lot to, we're not going to worry about these advanced features, right? In fact, I'm going to turn off even that. One thing you'll notice here is that there's not a lot of options when you're creating a topic. So in this case, I'm going to call it my topic, I believe is let me make sure I don't, yeah, my topic. So you can do it from the command line too, right? But here we're going to use the Cloud Console. So you create a topic using Pub Sub, and there you have a topic. Okay. The next concept is, where is it at? I guess I'm looking at it right here, my topic, right? So I have a single topic. Why is this not loading? There's my topic, right? Okay. The next concept is called subscription. So what you can do is you can basically create, they're basically buckets for when the messages come into a topic, they spread out to one or more subscriptions. And then subscriptions themselves are essentially handled in different ways. So it's basically another point on the consumption side for the consumer to connect to, right? And to our subscriber. And it takes the messages out of the subscription. So that's what this is about. So let's go through the exercise of creating a subscription for this topic, right? So you say create subscription, and I think think it's called my sub. Let me look at the example here. Topic, yeah, my sub. So you can do it from the command line, or we'll do it from here. And then you have to, of course, pick the topic that the subscription is associated with. Now, there's a lot more complexity around setting up a subscription. We're going to leave it pretty much with the defaults here. The important thing here has to do with this delivery type. In this case, this is kind of the simplest example. So, and we'll mess around with the different subscription types actually later. But the poll, essentially, let's see if I can get down here. So this is an example of what a poll looks like, right? So in poll delivery, the subscriber process, right, basically runs and initiates a connection to PubSub to retrieve messages, right? It pulls it down, and then once it pulls it down, it acknowledges back to PubSub that it's got it, essentially. So that's the process of doing a poll, right? A push obviously is a little different, where there's some endpoint on the subscriber, and PubSub actually pushes the message to the endpoint. We're just doing the poll example, which is the default here. So my sub to my topic, poll, not worrying about any of the settings, and just create it. Okay, and now I've got my sub. Okay. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is start looking at code. Now, in this example, we're running it from our personal workstation, and as such, we'll be using our own credentials to do these operations. And because our credential, we're logged in right now as the essentially owner of the project, we can do everything. So we don't need to worry about permissions at this point, because we basically have super user capabilities. So what we're going to do, though, is, now this may be left over from before or maybe not. Remember, when you do gcloud config list, right, this basically tells you who's logged in as in your command line tools for gcloud, but that's separate from this login. So I'm going to just re-log in just to show. When you're running code, you need to make sure you're logged in also at the application level, right? And that's different than gcloud. I mean, you use gcloud to do it, but it's a different application mechanism. And so I'm just going to just re-log back in. And I'm using my training account, right? And I allow access. So now I'm logged in with my training account here at the application level, right? So now we can actually look at the applications for both the publisher and the subscriber. So I'm going to see if we can do this justice. The publisher is, let's look at this code here real quick. Well, let's look at package.json. So again, this is Node. The main dependency here is, you can see that there's a dependency on Google Cloud PubSub, right? And if you're cloning this repo, then you'll want to do an npm install here. I'll just do it again for good measure. I already had installed it previously, so it was quick, right? That creates a Node modules. The lock file is generated automatically because of the package.json. So it's just really the code that we're looking at here. And let's see if I can look at this. Can't remember how long it is. Oh, it's not that long. Actually, let's look at it in code, though, because it's color-coded, easier to read. The package.json index. Okay, see if I can get this over here. Okay, so in this case, we're importing the dependency here, right? We're identifying the topic. We called it my topic, right? Because the publisher publishes the topics. This is the data that we're going to send as part of the payload for the message. This creates the client. This mechanism here is basically a function to essentially organize the data into a buffer. We then take that topic and then we publish the data to it. and then we're done. So all this will do is generate a single message and publish it to the topic, which will then propagate down to the single, in this case, subscription. So let's go do that and see what this looks like as an effect. So what we want to do is we do npm run start. And it should start up node. The message is published. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at, now the topic itself, you may see, requests per second. I mean, basically it's going to be 0 because it was just one message. But more interesting is under subscriptions, we can see, now I'm going to pause the video for a second and we're going to look at these two graphs in a minute. So I'm going to pause the video for maybe 2 minutes and then reload the screen. So let me find the pause. Okay, waited a minute or two, came back. You can see the subscription now. It shows that there's one unacknowledged message. That's the message I just posted, right? So that basically means it's sitting there ready to be picked up by a subscriber, right? So, right? And then you can see how long the oldest message is. It's been about 30 or 40 seconds, right? So if I reload again, it will probably say it's been more than 30 seconds, probably like, well, it's just over close to 40 seconds here. Okay, so long story short, there's a message ready to be pulled down. We just got to now look at the code for the subscriber to pull this down. So let's switch back to the subscriber code this time. So let me kill this. Let me go to a different folder, subscriber. And again, package.json should look similar, right? This basically has, you can see here the cloud pub sub, right? And then, of course, you would probably need to npm install here. Again, I've already done it. Okay, and then there's the code itself. And let's just quickly examine the code. Again, this is mostly just to get a flavor of it. This is the code here. You import the dependency. You tell it what subscription you're going to look for. This timeout, basically this software will this application will run for 60 seconds and then just quit on its own. But the general idea is you connect, you set up a new client, right? And then you have this method called listen for messages, where all it does is go and it creates a subscription, right? And then it has a function handler. So when a message comes in, it's in a console log it, and then you basically activate the subscription saying every time a new message comes in, call the message handler. So that's basically it. And this set timeout is just here to basically exit the whole application after 60 seconds. So the idea then, if I run this, it's going to basically pluck off the message and then display it and then not do anything more. Now conceptually, if I go back into the publisher, publish another message while this is running, this will pick it up and it'll pull it out. And then as a sidebar, if I actually ran 2 copies of the subscription, of the subscriber, then one of them will pick up the message and process it. So the idea is that this is a way of allowing you to scale your subscribers horizontally, so you can have many different subscribers all listening to a subscription, but only one at a time basically plucks a message off of it and processes it. So you don't have, not everybody has to process these messages. So let's just show this working. I think I just do npm run start. And if everything's working, I should see it pluck off the message. There's my foo bar, right? And now it's just waiting for more messages. And I guess I could start up, I'm not going to do it, but I could start up into the publisher, publish another message, and then observe it. Now you can, if I go back to the console, if it's updated, I should see that there are now no longer any messages in the queue. I guess I have to wait. I'm going to pause the video just for like a minute, just so we see that the message actually goes away. Okay, I waited a few minutes, and now you can of course see now that I've acknowledged the message from my subscriber code, it pulled the message down. There's no messages waiting. And of course, now there's the oldest message is basically there's no messages, so the oldest message is essentially 0. So that was just an example of going through, right? And we basically looked at the code for a publisher and subscriber as it ran on kind of what it does, what to expect, right? Running on our own machine. So the whole point of this exercise was to get the sense of what that code looks like and what it's doing. Now our goal is to implement the same pattern, but using the various compute solutions we've looked at previously. So that's the nature of the next series of videos. So that's it for this video.